The 1,970 seconds were an age of experimentation, where television dared to dream wildly and sometimes disastrously. But what happens when beloved characters from different worlds collide? The answer is a mix of brilliance, chaos, and forgotten gems buried in dusty reels. Today, we're uncovering 20 TV and cartoon crossovers from the 1,970 seconds you likely never knew existed until now. The Harlem Globetrotters meet Scooby-Doo, 1972. When Scooby-Doo Where Are You was riding high, Hanna-Barbera pulled an audacious stunt pairing, Mystery Incorporated, with none other than the Harlem Globetrotters. The basketball troupe, already pop culture icons, had their own Saturday morning show, but combining slapstick hoops with haunted mansions was both surreal and unforgettable. Audiences tuned in expecting spooky adventures, but what they got was pure crossover chaos. Velma and Daphne exchanged dialogue with Meadowlark Lemon, while Shaggy and Scooby stumbled through supernatural hijinks, only to be saved by a gravity-defying slam dunk. Critics dismissed it as a gimmick, but kids adored it. Ratings were strong enough to spawn follow-ups, including the new Scooby-Doo movies, where Scooby met other celebrities. Still, this particular crossover stood out as one of the strangest experiments in blending athletic celebrity with animated mystery. It may not have aged gracefully, but it remains a quirky reminder of when Saturday mornings belong to unfiltered imagination. Batman meets Scooby-Doo, 1972-73. Before gritty reboots and cinematic universes, Batman's campy 1,960 seconds glow carried into Saturday morning. Hanna-Barbera capitalized by having Scooby and the gang team up with Batman and Robin in the new Scooby-Doo movies. These episodes blended the world's greatest detective with Mystery Incorporated's amateur sleuths, creating an odd yet strangely endearing alliance. Batman's serious tone often clashed with Scooby's slapstick comedy, but that was the charm. Watching the Dark Knight interrogate crooks while Shaggy cowered in fear provided comedic contrast unlike anything else on TV. Behind the scenes, this crossover reflected TV's desperation to stretch superhero content in an era before blockbuster films. While comic fans groaned at Batman's silliness, children loved every second. The partnership worked so well that reruns carried into the 1,980 seconds, cementing it in nostalgic memory. Though mocked today, Batman and Scooby's team-up stands as an early precursor to the superhero crossovers we now take for granted. Gilligan's Planet, 1982, roots in 1,970 seconds crossover experiments. Though it technically premiered in the early 80 seconds, Gilligan's Planet was born from the late 70 seconds craze of turning live-action sitcoms into animated spin-offs. After the New Adventures of Gilligan tested the waters in the mid-70 seconds, Hanna-Barbera pushed the concept further, stranding the island's residents on another planet. This bizarre crossover between classic sitcom tropes and Saturday morning sci-fi was both ridiculous and oddly captivating. The skipper barked orders, Gilligan blundered into alien chaos, and space-age gadgets replaced coconuts. Critics scoffed, but children embraced the strange familiarity of sitcom rhythms transplanted into cosmic terrain. Though largely forgotten, Gilligan's Planet reflects a transitional era where television eagerly mashed nostalgia with futuristic spectacle. It may be remembered as kitsch, but it showed how far TV was willing to go to keep old favorites alive in new forms. The Addams Family meets the new Scooby-Doo movies, 1972. It sounds like fan fiction, but it really happened. In 1972, Scooby-Doo crossed paths with the creepy, kooky, mysterious, and spooky Addams Family. Voiced by much of the original cast, Gomez, Morticia, and the Clan joined Mystery Incorporated in unraveling eerie puzzles. The mix was perfect. Scooby's fearful antics mirrored the Addams' dark delight. Unlike the Globetrotters crossover, this pairing felt seamless. Both franchises thrived on haunted houses, gothic humor, and oddball villains. Behind the scenes, this experiment also tested the waters for a future Addams Family animated series, which soon followed. Viewers were intrigued, ratings solidified Scooby's star power, and the Addams got a brief renaissance. Though lost in the shuffle of countless Scooby specials, this remains one of the most natural and atmospheric crossovers of its time. It was proof that sometimes the strangest families make the most fitting allies. The Flintstones Meet the Thing, 1979. By the late 70s, Hanna-Barbera was running out of steam with its flagship Stone Age family. But in 1979, the studio tried something wildly experimental, merging the Flintstones with Marvel's Fantastic Four character, The Thing, in a short-lived series block called Fred and Barney Meet the Thing. The oddity here? The Thing wasn't even the gruff Ben Grimm from the comics. Instead, he was a mild-mannered teenager who magically transformed into the Rocky superhero by touching two rings together and shouting, "Thing ring, do your thing." This version of the character baffled comic book purists, who felt it diluted Marvel's creation beyond recognition. Stranger still, the crossover wasn't direct. Fred and Barney barely interacted with the Thing at all. The series simply paired their segments together, creating the illusion of a shared Saturday morning world. Kids didn't mind. Seeing a beloved prehistoric duo alongside a Marvel superhero felt like worlds colliding. The experiment is now remembered as one of the weirdest crossovers in TV animation history. It never achieved critical acclaim, but it perfectly reflects the decade's fearless willingness to mash genres, characters, and audiences into one surreal package. Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space, 1972. Fresh off their success as a musical mystery-solving band, Josie and the Pussycats were blasted literally into a new genre. Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space was Hanna-Barbera's attempt to merge Archie Comics-inspired teen hijinks with the intergalactic craze sparked by Star Trek and later supercharged by Star Wars. In this strange crossover, Josie, Melody, and Valerie found themselves accidentally launched into space, encountering alien civilizations, robot armies, and cosmic villains, all while still playing rock concerts. Critics didn't know what to make of it. Was it a sci-fi adventure? A comedy? A musical? The show never quite decided. Behind the scenes, it was a clear studio mandate. Combine what kids already loved, music and mystery-solving teens, with what they were becoming obsessed with, space. While ratings lagged compared to Scooby-Doo, the series developed a cult following, remembered fondly for its campy style and bizarre premises. This intergalactic spin-off may have confused audiences, but in hindsight, it's a fascinating relic of how the 1,970 seconds tried to blend pop culture trends into a single, unforgettable experiment. The Jetsons Meet, the Flintstones 1973 proto-version, long before the 1987 TV movie of the same name, Hanna-Barbera had been planting seeds for a crossover between their two most iconic families. In the early 1,970 seconds, a planned special began development that would have brought the futuristic Jetsons face to face with their Stone Age counterparts. Though not fully realized until the 80 seconds, the idea circulated strongly during this decade. Test animations and promotional pitches in the 70 seconds revealed what could have been a slapstick tale of time travel, culture clash, and family comedy. George Jetson fumbling with stone wheels, Fred Flintstone gawking at flying cars. It was irresistible on paper. Unfortunately, networks feared such a crossover might break the universes and confuse young viewers, so it was shelved. Yet, its cultural shadow lingered, and kids imagined what might happen if the two families swapped worlds. The eventual 1,987 film was born from this 1,970 seconds experimentation. Though delayed, this near miss stands as an important forgotten crossover attempt, a vision of two eras colliding that proved too ambitious for its time, yet too good an idea to ever die. The Brady Kids Meet Superman, 1972. After the Brady Bunch became a hit, ABC spun the kids into their own Saturday morning animated series, The Brady Kids. But what made this short-lived cartoon truly bizarre were the crossovers. None more startling than the time the Brady children teamed up with Superman. Yes, the Man of Steel appeared alongside Greg, Marcia, and Cindy as they fought villains and learned life lessons. It wasn't just Superman either. Wonder Woman also made cameo appearances, further blending DC Comics' world with sitcom pop culture. Behind the scenes, Filmation was desperate to capitalize on both superhero popularity and the Brady brand. The result was a surreal mashup, part moral-driven family comedy, part superhero adventure. Adults rolled their eyes, but kids devoured the novelty of seeing their favorite sitcom characters interact with iconic superheroes. Though largely forgotten today, this crossover was a milestone in television's experimentation. It marked one of the first times sitcom characters were thrust into a comic book universe, paving the way for the expansive cross-media crossovers we now see everywhere. The Banana Splits meet H.R. Pufnstuf, 1971. Before the explosion of Scooby-Doo crossovers, Sid and Marty Krofft were already experimenting with their own shared universes. In 1971, the Banana Splits Adventure Hour crossed paths with H.R. Pufnstuf, merging costumed animal rock musicians with the colorful world of talking flutes and witchy villains. The result was psychedelic chaos. The Banana Splits' surreal slapstick energy blended with Pufnstuf's trippy fantasy aesthetic, creating a crossover that felt like a fever dream. The sets were drenched in vibrant colors, oversized puppets roamed freely, and songs punctuated every adventure. For kids, it was a thrill, two worlds they already loved colliding in one carnival-like explosion. For adults, though, the crossover reinforced the Krofft brothers' reputation for creating shows that were too weird for words. Networks didn't know how to market it, and critics dismissed it as nonsense. Yet, the crossover lives on as a cult relic, beloved by fans who treasure its oddball creativity. In hindsight, it was a glimpse into the 1,970 seconds, willingness to push boundaries and embrace the bizarre, even if it made little sense on paper. Yogi's Lark, 1972. Before Captain Planet, before the modern shared universes of Marvel and DC, Hanna-Barbera tried something groundbreaking with Yogi's Lark. This TV special gathered nearly every Hanna-Barbera character, Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, Quick Draw McGraw, and more into a single environmental adventure. The plot? Yogi and friends built a flying ark to search for the perfect place, free from pollution, traffic, and human corruption. Along the way, they encountered smoggy cities, deforested landscapes, and greedy industrialists. It was both whimsical and eerily prescient. Critics were divided. Some praised the environmental message at a time when ecology was becoming a political issue, while others dismissed it as heavy-handed moralizing for kids. Behind the scenes, the special was a test run for Yogi's Gang, a series that continued the crossover concept. Though forgotten by many, Yogi's Lark deserves recognition as one of the first cartoons to tackle environmentalism directly and to unite dozens of beloved characters in one grand adventure. It wasn't just a crossover. It was a mission statement for a changing decade. Bugs Bunny Meets the Roadrunner, 1979 TV special. While Hanna-Barbera dominated crossovers, Warner Brothers tried its hand too. In 1979, CBS aired Bugs Bunny's Thanksgiving Diet and The Bugs Bunny, divided by Roadrunner movie TV specials that showcased classic Looney Tunes shorts stitched together with new animation. The highlight was Bugs Bunny, interacting directly with Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, blending two worlds of comedy that usually ran on parallel tracks. Bugs' witty banter contrasted with Roadrunner's silent speed, while Wile E. Coyote's endless failures became a meta-joke once Bugs joined the fray. Audiences loved the nostalgia, though critics pointed out the Frankenstein nature of the production. Warner Brothers was recycling old shorts under a new crossover wrapper, banking on audience loyalty rather than fresh ideas. Still, the special succeeded in reminding viewers that Looney Tunes could play like a shared universe, decades before the term was popularized. This crossover proved that even recycled content, when dressed in clever packaging, could reignite old magic. For children of 1979, it was a Saturday night where the biggest cartoon stars all shared the same stage. The new Scooby-Doo movies with Don Knotts, 1972. If one name defined quirky small-town comedy in the 1,960 seconds and 70 seconds, it was Don Knotts. Best known for his bumbling deputy Barney Fife on The Andy Griffith Show, Knotts made a surprising leap into animation when he guest starred on the new Scooby-Doo movies. This crossover was as odd as it was charming. Don Knotts appeared as himself, thrown into Mystery Incorporated's latest case. His wide-eyed, jittery mannerisms translated perfectly into cartoon form. He wasn't the brave hero, he was as scared as Shaggy and Scooby, often hiding behind them instead of saving the day. That made the comedy land, as kids got to see a celebrity acting just as silly and frightened as their favorite characters. Behind the scenes, Hanna-Barbera's crossover formula was clear: bring in recognizable stars who could draw in parents and older audiences. Knotts was an ideal choice, with his universal appeal and family-friendly reputation. The episode wasn't groundbreaking, but it resonated deeply with viewers who loved watching comedy and mystery collide. Today, it feels almost surreal, an Emmy-winning sitcom star bumbling through haunted houses with Scooby-Doo. Yet, that was the magic of the 1,970 seconds crossover era, when television wasn't afraid to mix genres, tones, and audiences in delightfully unpredictable ways. Fred Flintstone and Friends Meet Captain Caveman, 1977, by the late 1,970 seconds. The Flintstones was less about suburban Stone Age antics and more about franchising. Enter Fred Flintstone and Friends, a repackaged anthology series where old episodes were padded with newer Hanna-Barbera creations, including Captain Caveman. The crossover was a strange generational handshake. Captain Caveman, introduced in 1977, was a shaggy, club-wielding superhero parody who lived in the prehistoric past. Pairing him with Fred and Barney seemed natural on paper, but the tones clashed. The Flintstones had family-centered humor, while Captain Caveman leaned into zany slapstick and superhero spoof. Audiences were divided. Kids loved Captain Caveman's manic energy, but longtime Flintstones fans felt the crossover diluted the show's domestic charm. Behind the scenes, Hanna-Barbera's goal was simple: keep reinventing its most famous family by introducing newer characters to younger audiences. Though forgotten today, this crossover symbolized the studio's never-ending push to expand its animated universe. It wasn't seamless, but it was bold, and it helped Captain Caveman secure his place as a cult favorite. The Hardy Boys, Meet Scooby-Doo, 1,973, planned but partial. In the 1,970 seconds, the Hardy Boys enjoyed a resurgence thanks to novels, comics, and a live-action TV series. Hanna-Barbera saw potential in merging the teenage sleuths with their own mystery juggernaut, Scooby-Doo. Development began on a crossover, with early storyboards and production notes hinting at a joint adventure. While the full crossover never made it to air, elements of the plan survived. The Hardy Boys did receive their own animated series in 1969, and Hanna-Barbera envisioned the duo bumping into Mystery Incorporated during a larger supernatural case. Test scripts even paired Frank and Joe Hardy with Velma as co-investigators, while Shaggy and Scooby provided comic relief. Why did it stall? Network executives feared the brands would blur too much. Both were mystery-solving shows, but Hardy Boys had a more serious tone. Combining them risked undermining both. Though the project fizzled, its ghost lingers in cartoon history. Fans often imagine how the cool-headed Hardys might have clashed or complemented Scooby's goofy crew. It remains one of the great what-ifs of 1,970 seconds TV crossovers. Pink Panther meets the Ant and the Aardvark, 1971. DePatie Freleng, the studio behind the Pink Panther show, decided to merge their two most popular shorts into a shared block. While the Pink Panther remained the suave, silent trickster, the Ant and the Aardvark delivered slapstick predator-prey humor. When the two worlds collided, it was a crossover fueled by pure comedy. Episodes often cut between Pink Panther's cool, jazzy mischief and the Aardvark's endless failure to catch the clever ant. But in several specials, the characters briefly interacted, sharing scenes, backgrounds, and comic timing. The contrast was stark, the Panther's silent elegance versus the Aardvark's grumpy desperation. Critics at the time dismissed it as recycled shorts, but audiences didn't care. Kids were thrilled to see their favorite characters occupy the same cartoon landscape. The crossover also kept the Pink Panther franchise relevant into the mid-1970s, bridging old-school theatrical shorts with Saturday morning traditions. It may not have been groundbreaking, but it was stylish and funny, a reminder that even simple crossovers could breathe fresh life into familiar faces. Scooby-Doo meets Phyllis Diller, 1972. Few crossovers were as unexpected as the new Scooby-Doo movies episode featuring comedian Phyllis Diller. Known for her eccentric stage presence, cackling laugh, and wild hair, Diller was a household name in the 70s, but dropping her into a haunted house with Scooby and the gang was another story. In the crossover, Phyllis played herself, leaning fully into her zany persona. She cracked jokes while dodging ghosts, delivered one-liners during chase scenes, and at one point even outwitted the villain with sheer comic absurdity. For kids, it was strange to see a stand-up comedian wandering with Scooby. For adults, it was a wink toward mainstream entertainment merging with Saturday morning fare. Behind the scenes, Diller's appearance was part of Hanna-Barbera's strategy of booking celebrity guests to draw older viewers. While the humor was hit or miss, the episode revealed TV's increasing desire to blur boundaries between live-action celebrity culture and animated fantasy. It's rarely remembered today, but Phyllis Diller's turn in Scooby-Doo is a snapshot of a decade when anyone from comedians to sports stars might suddenly appear in cartoon form. Daffy Duck meets Porky Pig and Friends. 1976. Syndication block. In 1976, Warner Brothers tried to repackage its classic shorts into something new for television syndication. Daffy Duck and Porky Pig meet the groovy Ghoulies. This oddball experiment mashed Looney Tunes icons with Filmation's monster-themed groovy Ghoulies. The crossover special saw Dracula, Frankenstein, and other cartoon ghouls interacting with Porky and Daffy in skits, musical numbers, and comedy sketches. It was part variety show, part crossover, and part marketing stunt. Audiences were confused. Some loved the musical chaos, while others wondered why beloved Warner characters were sharing screen time with second-tier Filmation monsters. Behind the scenes, it was a desperate attempt to compete with Hanna-Barbera's successful crossover formula. The special aired only once and disappeared, relegated to the vault of strange TV experiments. Today, collectors treasure it as a rare artifact, proof that even Looney Tunes tried jumping into the crossover craze of the 1970 seconds. It may not have lasted, but it symbolizes an era when studios would risk anything, even their most iconic characters, for novelty. The Muppets meet Sesame Street, 1978. Crossover episodes. Perhaps the most heartwarming crossover of the 1970 seconds came when Jim Henson blurred the lines between his two worlds. The Muppet Show and Sesame Street. In select episodes and specials, beloved characters like Big Bird, Kermit, and Ernie crossed over, appearing alongside Fozzie Bear, Miss Piggy, and Gonzo. This wasn't just a stunt, it was a cultural milestone. Children saw their favorite educational friends mingling with the zany chaos of the Muppets, while adults recognized Henson's genius in crafting a single, interconnected puppet universe. Ratings soared whenever Sesame Street characters appeared, proving the emotional bond audiences felt toward Henson's creations. Behind the scenes, Henson himself saw no division. To him, Kermit could exist in both worlds seamlessly, bridging educational television and primetime variety entertainment. The crossover hinted at the vast potential of a shared Muppet universe long before the Muppet movie, 1979, solidified it. Unlike other gimmicky crossovers, this one felt organic, meaningful, and magical. It remains one of the few experiments of the decade that aged into timelessness, cementing Jim Henson's reputation as a master of storytelling across generations. The 1970 seconds were bold, bizarre, and beautiful in their crossover experiments. From Scooby-Doo chasing ghosts with celebrities to Muppets sharing the stage with Sesame Street icons, these forgotten mashups reveal a fearless age of imagination. Which crossover do you remember? Comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.